Uh, the next topic is another important one, and this is about the industry, the pharma preparedness on hepatitis elimination in Pakistan. I've requested Osman Waheed to, thank you very much for being here, Osman. So we've always been fighting with you. So, so love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chaudhary. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's a very daunting task to speak before a panel, speakers and an audience that consists almost exclusively of people that I've looked up to, learned from, and been inspired by my entire working life. But thank you for this opportunity. Thankfully, I only have roughly 5 minutes, and the speakers who have come before me has already set the stage well enough that I can't mess it up too much. So as you've already heard, Pakistan has the second highest burden of HCV in the world, and as Dr. Huma Qureshi very rightly pointed out, I think if we ask our friend Dr. Razavi to do another iteration of the study, we'll find that Pakistan is actually now number one in the list of HCV infected countries in the world. And of course, this is a race you do not want to be number one in. The treatment landscape of hepatitis C throughout the world, but in Pakistan also, has changed dramatically since the introduction of the DAAs. And from a base of about 60,000 or under 60,000 patients annually when we had interferons, we are now up to an average of about 200,000 patients being treated annually. This, unfortunately, is nowhere near enough. And it's despite the fact that Pakistan today is, actually this is one list that you do want to be number one in, we have the lowest cost of DAA treatment in the entire world, on the planet. So today, a soft DAC treatment 3-month course costs under $50, and a single tablet regimen under $150. And with large scale tenders, this might even go further below this. But even at these costs, we are the lowest cost country in the world for curing hepatitis C. Hopefully in the next few years, beyond Hep C, Pakistan will also start producing vaccines for both hepatitis B and hepatitis E. So in terms of the entire armament of treating the various forms of hepatitis, I think we should be well placed. But of course, drugs or vaccines are only one part of the chain. It's the entire health system that needs to respond to this challenge. So the big goal is from 200,000 patients annually today between the public and the private sector, we need to move very rapidly to a scenario where we are treating over 1 million patients a year, as Dr. Huma also mentioned in her talk. This can come from two sources, the private out-of-pocket and corporate or CSR portion will unfortunately always be the smaller one, because ultimately it's only the government that has the scale and the resources to respond to a challenge. That's the scale of hepatitis C in Pakistan. On the private sector side, there has been some efforts made. Gilead and Ferosans were part of the founding of this corporate coalition for viral hepatitis elimination. This now includes about 18 companies that employ over 500,000 people in Pakistan. And some of the sort of most well-known names, these are companies that are already engaged in large-scale CSR activities. Unfortunately, our attempt to bring them to focus on viral hepatitis has been derailed first by COVID, now by the floods, but this coalition continues. And the idea really is to make this from beyond a coalition into a network for micro-elimination efforts across the country. So each of these employers has a home base, whether it's a manufacturing plant or a head office. And in a certain circumference, we will engage with them to try and assist and finance micro-elimination efforts that work very well, as Dr. Asad Chaudhry's work has shown, and as other studies have shown also, as one component of an elimination strategy. Of course, the biggest component, as I mentioned, will always remain the public sector component. And even there, Dr. Tariq mentioned the need for public-private partnerships. And recently at a liver summit, we heard from Dr. Homi Razavi also about a new model of public-private partnership that has begun in some states in the US. And in our region, Uzbekistan, I think, is also on the verge of starting a Netflix model of hepatitis C elimination. So essentially what a Netflix model entails is a fixed subscription where a province or a national government agrees with a manufacturer or a set of manufacturers, a group of manufacturers, to set a fixed annual payment for a fixed duration. Now, in this type of model can be worked on. It can be worked on with the help of experts such as Dr. Razavi in a way that is transparent and benefits the health system of the country. The state benefits because it knows exactly how much it's going to cost. It can make it part of its next 5-year or 10-year plan. It creates an incentive to treat as many patients as quickly as possible because there is no cap on the annual number of treated patients. And it also creates an incentive to screen as many people as possible. The manufacturers benefit because they know they have a fixed cash flow coming in. And of course, if you are actually serious about treating 1 million+ patients a year, it will require investments on the manufacturing side as well. I was calculating earlier this morning just the amount of sofosbuvir active ingredient you would need, which currently Pakistan doesn't produce and imports, would be about 40 tons a year. And if that were to happen, this would A, be good for Pakistan. We would become self-sufficient through the supply chain. And B, it would make us a global player in the field of antiviral manufacturing. So this has multiple benefits beyond just the treatment part of the equation. Of course, the patient and the treatment remains the center of the effort and the most important component. And the patient also in the end benefits because there's no barriers, free treatment. And the earlier we test, everybody benefits. In Australia, which has a population of 26 million people, roughly a 10th or a 9th of Pakistan, and a prevalence also that is roughly about a 9th of ours, 1.3%, entered into a commitment with Gilead and AbbVie of $200 million a year for 5 years. I would venture that with the same amount, or maybe perhaps only slightly more, we could put this model to effect in a country like Pakistan with 10 times the population, 9 times the prevalence, and still be able to eliminate it. Of course, it requires a commitment and trust on both sides, on the sides of the government and on the side of the private sector. States within the US that have also signed up include Louisiana and Washington, and their population and prevalence, as I mentioned on this slide. These slides are Homi Razavi's slides, and he showed that the key driver for value is the ability to treat as many people as quickly as possible. So as I said, since there is no annual cap, the government is fully incentivized, despite the fact that the payments are spread over 5 or 10 years, to really go full on in terms of awareness and screening efforts. And as you can see, the gray line is the status quo. The blue shows what the WHO elimination plan looks like currently if that were followed. And the green is the Netflix model, the license subscription model. And this has significant benefits both in terms of reducing the prevalence as quickly as possible, but also reducing significantly the number of liver-related deaths, which is the last graph that you see on the right. If in the US, and I would imagine you would agree that in Pakistan the results would be even more dramatic because the size of the problem is much bigger here. But if this were applied across the US, where this model already exists, if it were applied nationally, the number of treated and cured patients would nearly double, and liver-related deaths would decline by more than 55%. In Pakistan, where we have anywhere between 12 and 15 million patients, and liver cancer being the fastest growing cancer in the country, the benefits would be significantly greater for us. At the end, I'm again the least qualified person in this room to suggest this, but I would still venture to do so and hope that this can be responded to with people who have actually knowledge in this area, is that we perhaps need to simplify and streamline the test, treat, cure model for Pakistan. And I say this because the way things stand today, the way our costings are, and Dr. Tariq also mentioned that the biggest part of the treatment is of the cost of elimination is actually the diagnostics. And if we were to start with a rapid test, you would significantly reduce the total diagnostic cost and also be able to very quickly screen somebody and put them on treatment before they escape. So there's a direct link between the gap between diagnosis and putting on treatment and patient compliance. So if we can ensure, even at the risk of over-treating patients, I think there's enough data to show, even in our setting, that this is a safe regimen, DA regimens, regardless of which one you use. The side effect profile is safe enough that even by over-treating, but ensuring at the same time that you do it in a way that your budgets don't burst, and also you don't lose too many patients to follow up. You can prevent loss to follow up, you can document your cure well. Almost every province now has an exceptionally good EMR system that can be put to use. And ultimately, you can create a virtuous funding cycle, because an effort of this scale will require funding. This was my last slide, and I'm also out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Osman.